Hey there and welcome back to South Park: The Stick of Truth. My name is Pete and today we complete the Hot Coffee quest, so part of the main quest line, as well as the Mongolian Beef side quest. In the last episode we acquired all remaining main and side quests that we have available right now, and we also already completed a few of them. Today we continue things where we left off last time in front of Skeeter's bar, and our first point of interest in today's episode is the Tower of Peace, where the Mongolian Beef quest line will take place.
Of the Knights of Canherderness.
Right, now we received this quest in the City Wok restaurant last time, and the owner, Mr. Kim, told us to beat up all the Mongolians here, so that they will finally leave him and his restaurant alone. And that is exactly what we're about to do. Very useful here, by the way, is the fact that some of the Mongolians are weak to shock, which makes Butter's Hammer of Storm's ability all the more powerful. And with the last enemy stunned, we can immediately strike again, and shortly after, our first group of enemies is defeated.
I think I just found a new bottom bitch.
Alright, and winning this fight also earns us level up, and that means we have one more ability point to spend. And just like last time, we will continue to improve our Sling of David. Yes, improving Jiu-Jitsu is also a viable strategy, but for the moment I'm happy with the stun ability and I don't need it to do much more than that. Instead, we improve the Sling of David, which now inflicts attack down and pissed off on our enemies, so 2 negative debuffs that could give us a further advantage. All we can do now is loot our enemies, then head upstairs and go for round number 2.
I'm Butters the Merciful of the Knights of Canherderness.
This time none of our enemies are weak to shock, but on the other hand we only have 2 against us, and so if we use our abilities correctly, this fight shouldn't be too much of a challenge. By the way, at the top of the screen we're still counting towards the Weapon Proficiency and Skilled Defender achievements, and once we have 100 perfect attacks and 100 blocked attacks, we will have those 2 achievements completed as well.
We'll see if it works.
I'm not quite sure if we're able to do this in this episode already, but I think at least the Weapon Proficiency achievement should be unlocked in the next episode. Also, since this episode is a bit more heavy on the combat side, let me know if you want me to speed things up slightly whenever we do some fighting. Now, the various enemies in this game are rather unique and don't get too repetitive. That is, of course, if we don't pick a fight with every elf that runs around town. But still, doing a lot of fighting might get a bit boring to watch for you. So once again, let me know if you want me to increase the speed of combat a tiny bit. And I'm not talking about a true fast forwarding or skipping combat altogether here. I was more thinking along the lines of a slight 25-30% speed increase. So something that is noticeable and does save us a bit of time, but something that should still allow you to see the important pieces of action. Alright, and for winning this fight we just received the Mongolian bow. And this bow might be one of the most useful early game weapons, not only because it does a lot more damage than our current bow, but more importantly because it does fire damage. And fire damage is something that quite a few enemies are weak to in the early game, including not only our elven enemies but also a lot of the Mongolians. So we're going to see this bow in action in just a few moments, but before we do though, let's also do some modifying. We haven't really bothered with badges so far, but those are useful little upgrades for our equipment. For example, this one right here restores 2 PP whenever we kill an opponent, so let's improve our holy robes with that. We can also upgrade our headwear, but the ghost patch is locked behind level 4 for the moment, so we'll have to wait a while until we can use that. Up next, we can go behind the wall here and grab the Mongolian treasure key, and this will unlock the box over on the left side here. Inside we find the Flaming Sword patch, this one restoring 2 PP whenever we deal fire damage, and since we just picked up a fire damage bow, it makes a lot of sense to equip this one. Before we head upstairs, let's also grab the Chin Pokemon on the right, and once we have that, we can proceed.
Oh boy, a door puzzle! Joy! Road Dog. Can't I just go right back home after the flight so I don't get grounded?
Another fight awaits, and this time we can really exploit the weaknesses of our enemies. One of them weak to fire, two of them weak to shock. That sounds like the perfect matchup for us.
Feel my righteous fury.
And so the whole encounter here won't take that long. In a few seconds our last enemy will fall and we can continue.
Hey Wiz, I hope I level up.
Now, like Butter said earlier, to get through the door here we have to solve a small puzzle, and the first part of that would be to shoot down and grab the dragon tail on the balcony here. We can then put that dragon tail in place on the left side here, where it is obviously missing, and then afterwards we quickly have to shoot both dragons in the eye with the bow, and that will open the door, and with that our way onwards.
What the heck? I'm gonna get grounded anyway, you might as well.
And with that we have successfully made it to our first boss fight in the game. The Mongolian Horde here is, despite being portrayed as many enemies, just a single target, albeit one with a large health bar and various immunities. One of those is the immunity to stun, which means our Jiu-Jitsu ability will be completely useless in this fight.
Feel my righteous fury.
Still, the enemy is very much beatable for us, at least as long as we keep both of our heroes alive. And doing so, not only in this fight but also throughout the entire game, is also very important for another achievement, as the No Child Left Behind achievement requires us to complete the entire game without ever ending a combat with a buddy knocked out. Now that means he can get knocked out during combat, but he has to be revived before we finish the fight to not void the achievement. Since health potions are rather abundant in the game though, it is likely the best idea to not even let them get knocked out in the first place. The sweet and sour surprise here, by the way, a nasty attack, causing not only a solid amount of damage but also burning and grossed out debuffs, and at this point I actually wasn't quite sure whether or not Butters would survive the fight, and I also made a small mistake here. I could have used a healing potion with the new kit to get Butters' health back up, and then with Butters himself I could have used the cure potion immediately afterwards to then get rid of the negative status effects. I only went with the cure potion here and forgot about healing, and had the Mongolians attacked him next round that might have been the end of him, but luckily they chose not to. As we block the attack here, the burning damage does the rest, and our first boss of the game is defeated.
Well, not being grounded was nice while it lasted.
As a reward, we earn some money as well as a few items, and we also get a nice amount of experience points, and we can now complete the quest line by returning to Mr. Kim in the City Wok. However, things won't go that easily, as on the level below we have one last group of enemies.
Well, what the heck? I'm gonna get grounded anyway, you might as well.
With one guy being weak to fire and the other one being weak to shock, however, this fight only lasts a few seconds.
Feel my righteous fury. Boy, this is neato, huh?
Alright, and with that we have finally cleared out the Tower of Peace now, and can now return to Mr. Kim to complete this quest.
There you go, kid. All the shitty chicken you can carry. You do good work. I'll help you fuck up Mongolians anytime you want. Not bosses, though. They too tough. You call me with this. I give you one per day.
And here we are. That is the Mongolian Beef side quest completed.
Sorry, you can only summon me once per day. Or else who gonna...
Now, Mr. Kim doesn't have anything else to say to us, and we also don't want to buy anything here, but we just made him our friend and we can now also summon him in combat, which is something we might do in one of the tougher fights later on. Now, with this side quest completed, our next stop will be the police station. The police station holds a very important item that we need to get before completing the hot coffee quest line. However, before we head inside, there's also a bag hidden behind the sign here, which is something I overlooked when we passed by here last time.
Seriously.
Sorry, kid, I'm too busy to talk to you right now. Maybe later.
Now, Sergeant Yates will eventually also give us a quest, but not at this point. Right now he only has this one-liner for us, and so we can focus exclusively on looting the police station. Over to the left we could get into the holding cells, but in order to get the most out of that we first need to head upstairs. Now, my goal for this trip to the police station is to grab that one particular item and also to acquire one more friend. The items and persons required for that are both locked inside the holding cell, however, so our first task is of course to find a way in there. And finding a way in is actually a very good point right now, as we've just cleared a way inside of the locker room. Before we loot anything, let's quickly open the emergency exit here, and outside we can quickly lower the ladder before heading back inside, and this now gives us easy access back into the locker room should we ever need it. Inside of the fourth locker then, the item that we need right now, the jail cell key which opens the holding cells. But before we head back downstairs and into the holding cell, let's actually check out this upper area a bit more. There is a small vent here that we can loot for some cash, and then up next we have the evidence room, which from the name itself already promises some interesting stuff. On top of the shelves here, for example, we can find another Chin Pokemon. After moving the ladder over to the other side of the shelf, we can also gain access to a treasure chest, and there's also a bag filled with goodies on the floor below the chest. Now we have everything though, let's head downstairs and into the holding cell area.
I swear Rumper Stomper had a couple more years on his sentence. But you do have the key.
Thanks. Now finally I can go see a Disneyland that hasn't been snuck into prison in some kid's asshole.
Alright, very important here. We not only acquired Romper Stomper as our friend, we also grabbed the bald cap from the bag next to him.
Come on a quieter day, I'll take you on a ride along. I'll be way more careful than I was with the last kid.
And that bald cap in combination with Cartman's goatee will be very important in a few moments. For now though, we can leave the police station again. Our next stop will be the post office.
We've been getting reports of a bunny rabbit running around people's yards. I'm gonna check it out.
Now, you might remember that in the last episode we picked up the side quest Mr. Slave's Package. To complete that quest, we simply need to grab said package from the post office and return it to Mr. Slave. So, simple enough, let's head inside and do exactly that.
Get on the ground and shut up or your brains are going on the fucking roll. Hey, Vince, how's it going? Just showing the new kid around today. Yeah, already been to the bank.
Hey, Butters, sweet kid.
I'd love to chat, but you're unpopular.
We still cannot befriend Lola, however. In order to do that, we need to gain a few more friends first. Our next stop now is once again the bank.
I got a beating with your name on it.
Where are your parents?
Welcome to the Bank of South Park. Would you like to invest money with us today?
And yes, once again, we are going to invest the $20 here. Like I said last time, we will get that money back eventually.
A smart choice, kid. First thing we'll do is take that money and invest in a Colorado tax-free municipal bond fund, and then give the dividend to my buddy at Goldman Sachs, who'll give it to his buddy at JP Morgan, who has a LIBOR-adjusted cross-currency obligation, and it's gone!
Well, perfect, but at least our trip to the bank was not completely in vain, as we can find another kindergartner for the hide-and-seek side quest here.
No way! How did you find me?
Wonderful, only 2 more kindergartners remain until we can turn in that quest, but up next on our to-do list, making another friend and fighting a few hobos.
Hey, you're getting popular. I need to get in on that.
Now, you might remember that we couldn't befriend Kelly earlier when we talked to her the first time. Now though, we have enough friends, over 20 to be exact, and that is enough for her to become our friend as well.
Well, there's a professor of astrophysics. That's a professor of neurobiology. That was a lawyer, I think. We will kill them with compassion!
Alright, another fight, this time against a group of hobos. And this fight actually has a reason, I didn't just start it for fun, as it is part of the quest that Mayor McDaniels gave us, the quest to relocate 7 homeless camps around town. And relocating in this case simply means chasing them off, and in this game the best and also the only way to achieve that is through combat. Now the guy that we stunned before combat started is already down. The reason for that, he was weak to shock and Butter's Hammer of Storms took him out in one go. We also blocked the other guy's attack and the third one is stunned, so with our next turn we can already clear this camp out. Alright, 12 experience points and the second of 7 camps relocated. All that is left to do now is to loot the area. Next to the bodies of the 3 homeless persons, there's also a bag inside of the tent, as well as another bag outside, although that one is brightly visible. And now, with the homeless camp relocated, another friend made, and the package from Mr. Slave in our inventory, I think it's time we deliver that package to the man himself and complete another side quest.
You will never get laid looking like that, kid.
Die, asshole!
And this game actually has quite a few of those side quests. Quests where you're pretty much only required to go from point A to point B, pick something up or talk to someone there, and then simply return to the quest giver to complete the quest. To be honest, that is not really revolutionary game design, but then again the game borrows from popular RPG mechanics on purpose, so I think these simple fetch quests are very much intended.
Thanks, kid. My night is looking a whole lot better now. Here, if you ever need my help, use this. I can't help with any tough fights, though. I don't want to get a fissure. Come back and find me if you want to call me again, but give it a day. I go to a lot of parties.
Alright, we earned another 38 experience points, made $5 and completed the Mr. Slave's package side quest. And not only does that make Mr. Slave our friend now, we can also add him to the list of people we can now summon in combat. And combat is once again around the corner.
My frost giant is invincible. You have slain the mighty frost giant. I stand in awe of you, hero.
Now, by destroying the snowman here, we can get a friend request from Francis, and then in the bushes on the other side, we can find another Jin Pokemon. And now, let's take care of the hot coffee quest, and in order to do so, we need to deliver a letter from Tweek to Mrs. McCormick, Kenny's mother.
What? Oh, this isn't for me. This is for the nice people who are renting the guest house out in the back.
Alright, now before we go into that guest house in the back, we want to make sure to equip 2 items. The first one is the bald cap that we just obtained in the police station. The other one is Evil Cartman's goatee, which we grabbed way back in episode 1 in Cartman's home. And we need to wear both of those for the next few minutes to unlock the Heisenberg achievement.
Yeah, we got the package for Tweek Coffee. You got the envelope?
Hey, that's not the usual kid that picks up the package.
Huh? Oh, shit. It's a Kip!
We will kill them with compassion.
Alright, we've got another fight on our hands, and this one, at least on hardcore difficulty, one of the more difficult ones. It is by no means impossible to beat, I think nothing in this game really is, but as you can see, the Meth Tweekers have no particular weaknesses, and compared to us, and especially compared to Butters, they also have a rather sizable health bar.
Feel my righteous fury. Oh, shit.
Now, we could of course summon one of our friends to help us in this fight, Jesus, Mr. Kim or Mr. Slave for example, but then again that is not completely necessary. Just keep in mind that if you struggle with this fight yourself, this is a very good point to make your first summon. For storyline purposes, let me also quickly remind you that we came here to grab ingredients for coffee, and in doing so, we have apparently stumbled right into a meth lab. This might also explain the rather erratic behavior of Tweek himself, who throughout the day drinks a lot of his parents' coffee. This is actually very interesting because I believe in the series Tweek's parents claim that he has ADD, which, as we can find out here, is very likely not the case. Now, what I don't know at this point, and if you do, then feel free to let me know in the comments, is whether Tweek's parents put meth only in his coffee or in the coffee of all of their customers. Both of Tweek's parents seem rather calm, and I would have to assume they both drink the coffee themselves, so this might be something they only do for his coffee.
This cop's crazy.
We usually win.
Right, and with that we have beaten the Meth Tweekers, and doing so while wearing both the bald cap and Evil Cartman's goatee unlocks the Heisenberg achievement, and we can now grab the remaining ingredients for Tweek's coffee. Those are, however, not on one of the Meth Tweekers' bodies. Instead, we have to climb a bit to get to them. First of all, though, let's open the fridge, and then we can go up the ladder, bring down the plank, and move across. At the end here, we can then grab the package that we came for, and let's also not leave just yet, because there is a bit more to explore on the rooftop. First of all, we have a chest here with a melee weapon that we don't really need at this point, and then we can also use the telephone pole here to attach a manbearpig sensor. We need to put up 3 of these in South Park for the manbearpig side quest, a quest that we received in the last episode from none other than Al Gore. Back inside of the meth lab, we can then turn off the flame, loot the chest, and make our exit. However, we won't leave the area just yet, because there is another homeless camp to relocate.
Are you gonna rape us?
Now, this guy's on his own and has no rats or anything else as backup. Additionally, he's also weak to shock, but he somewhat makes up for that with a pretty hefty health bar. In the end though, that health bar will likely not save him. After all, it's still 2 against 1 in this fight, and his shock weakness combined with the burning damage over time will quickly take care of him.
That's not nice.
Maybe now you'll turn your life around.
So here we are, homeless camp number 3 of 7 relocated. We can quickly loot his body as well as a chest over on the left side, and then complete a small bit of the big game hunting with Jimbo side quest. All we need to do to get that started is to place the moldy sausage that Jimbo gave us right here.
Well, here we go again.
And that will attract the rabbit junkyard dog, one of 6 animals that we need to defeat in order to complete this side quest. With over 500 hit points, this dog is definitely not a weak enemy. However, he does have a weakness to shock and is not armored, and in combination with a well-placed jiu-jitsu, we can exploit that to take him down without taking a single point of damage. And so after earning another 20 experience points, we are actually very close to leveling up again here. Also, just to show you, we currently cannot go any further east, as the path here is once again blocked by rats. But after raiding the meth lab and defeating the Meth Tweekers, I think our next point of interest for this episode should be quite clear, as we are of course heading back to Tweek Brothers Coffee now, to return the meth and to complete the hot coffee quest.
Can you keep a secret? Neither can I.
Doing so should hopefully allow Tweek to finish his shift at the coffee shop early, and so he might still have some time to play with us later.
Hey, you kids want to see a
Fuck you,
movie?
asshole.
Oh, that's right, you can't, because it's rated R and it's too mature for you.
You did it! You got the pickup! Oh, thanks, man. Dad, I finished my work. Can I go play?
Where's today's delivery?
Right here.
Yep, that's good shit. All right, Tweek, you can play for a little bit. But be home before dark or you'll be grounded. Grounded, like the fresh grinds of our all-organic Tweek blend, made with ingredients from local Tweekers.
Thanks, kid. I gotta go get changed, and then I'll meet you at the kingdom.
Alright, here we are, hot coffee quest complete, and we have actually leveled up again, and we'll take care of that in just a second. But since Tweek also gave us his key, we can quickly use that to unlock the treasure chest over here, which holds not only some cash but also some pretty cool equipment. Up next, we can then spend the ability point we just received, and I think let's continue with the Sling of David for now. The ability to now bounce that to a random additional target strikes me as very useful. We'll also go into the inventory real quick. First of all, with the achievement unlocked, we can now remove the bald cap. It is not needed for anything else in the game. The goatee, on the other hand, I have to admit I've grown somewhat accustomed to that, and I think we'll actually keep this one equipped. We will now also switch our gear for the first time in this playthrough, as we upgrade our headwear to the Druid Crown. With our current headwear, we regenerate 1 PP whenever we take damage. With this one, we regenerate 2 PP every turn, at least as long as we're outdoors. So whenever we're fighting inside, we can switch back to the old one, but for fighting outside, the Druid Crown definitely superior. We're also going to upgrade to the Druid Gloves, as the ability to gain defense up at the start of every single combat seems very useful to me. Now let's quickly also modify the new equipment a bit. The Druid Crown gets the Flaming Sword Patch for additional PP regeneration whenever we deal fire damage. The Holy Robes get the Action Hero Badge for 2 PP every time we kill an opponent. And the Druid Gloves get the Ghost Patch for hit point leeching. Alright, and with that I would say we are at the end of today's episode. Next time we will take care of Tokens part of the main quest. And of course we will also complete a few more side quests along the way. For today though, I can say thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.